So today we're going to go over AI and Python. So first we're just going to have like a little about me, kind of introduce you guys to who I am, and then give a little introduction as to what we're going to be doing with AI and Python. And then we're going to have the workshop itself where I'll show you how to kind of use Python and AI together. And then the last section I named contact, but that's kind of just going to be a Q&A. And I'll provide my email in case anyone has any questions, so you could write to me. Um, but first, a little bit about me. I'm a junior at Stevens Institute of Technology. My name's Bhagawat C. I'm doing computer science. That's my major, but I'm very interested in data science and AI and ML field. But I'm pretty much almost done with my degree. I'll be finishing up next semester, just wrapping up a couple requirements for my computer science degree. Um, a little bit about my hobbies. I like going to the gym, listening to music, and learning new things. Kind of probably like why you guys are here. You guys want to learn a little bit more about Python and AI. But if anybody has any questions about me, feel free to say something. But we can get started with the workshop if nobody has any other comments. Okay, sounds good. So what we're going to be doing is using OpenAI's ChatGPT feature inside of Python. So so ChatGPT, you can just go to the website, right? You'll be able to type in the chat, ask it anything. But kind of the back end aspect of that, what's going on behind the scenes of that is it's kind of sending a request to the ChatGPT server and that's being picked up by the web app, so the website that you go to, and then whatever response that it detects, it kind of just prints that out line by line. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. Maybe a little bit less nice looking, but it's still useful to kind of get to know the what's going on in the background. So in order to access OpenAI, we need something called an API key. An API key is basically something that lets OpenAI know who I am. So a lot of the time for these API keys, you need to pay money because the computing power required for these LLMs, these large language models, it's a lot, and it can cost a lot of money just because of how much that these computers need to cool down after being sent these requests. So it's kind of you don't want other people wanting to see your API key because if they were that they'd be able to use it and in turn kind of steal from you because that's something you paid for, but someone else is accessing it. So we usually need to hide this key. You'll see in this screenshot, I use a module called .env. This is a import that you can use to hide variable names. So let's say I want the API key to be hidden, right? I want to kind of include that in a .env file that's not in the current file. So when I'm coding to other people, I don't let them know what's my API key. So we can kind of get started with that here. So I have like the basic imports done here, and this is going to be the end result. But I want to do from .env import load.env. And then I want to actually call the function that'll kind of tell Python what the environment's looking like. And from the API key, I want to get the API key. and then this will throw a key error. So if it's not able to find it, we'll know. Here we can test this out. Oh, it looks like I don't have Python on my VS Code. Just let me download that real quick. Actually, I don't think I need to do that. We can just do this. So running this. Oh,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Did you pay for that thingy?
Yeah, I had to pay for it, but I use it in other I use it for my senior design project right now, so it's no biggie to just use it for this little example
Wait, but
here.
then how are we gonna use it for our project?
There's other resources. Gemini has a similar like Google's AI service. They have a similar thing where it's absolutely free. And
Oh
it's a
yeah,
similar process to kind of doing this. But I think OpenAI kind of did it first, where they had this like Python setup with their ChatGPT. So I kind of want to get you guys accustomed to using kind of the base model for this. But we can see if it's able to find the API key by running this. Right now it's not able to find response, but
I have a
that's
question.
okay. Go ahead.
Are there are there like free uses, like a free trial?
No, OpenAI doesn't have a free trial, but like I said here, I can just show you Gemini.
I
So
think
if you go to,
OpenAI gives you like a certain amount of tokens for free at like if you just signed up.
I'm not so sure about that. Because my kind of entire my project right now is kind of based on that. But if you Google Google Gemini API, you can use Google's kind of thing, and they have a similar way of importing that stuff. It, it's kind of the exact same process. It's just you're gonna have to use Google's API instead of ChatGPT's. Um,
I've used Google before, but not its API, like the Gemini.
okay. Yeah, so that you can like use the Google Gemini AI without the API, but if you want to kind of give it like some custom input or something like that, or have it do like some kind of analysis and then feed that data directly into it, you're gonna have to do it in something like Python, where it's a little bit more complicated. But you can see here, if I run this, there's no error because it's able to find my API key. And you, I think if I do that, you can see that I have a .env file in this directory, meaning I have a file named .env. It's just hidden because when you see a dot but before a file, it usually tells the operating system, hey, hide this, don't show this. But doing ls or list showing -a kind of shows everything in here. And you can see .env is one of the files. So that's where we're getting this API key from. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, sound good. So you can see I kind of prepared to do the client here. In order to kind of let OpenAI know that I'm accessing their services, I need to use the OpenAI module. And you can see here I imported this stuff. They make it directly downloadable, so you have direct access to their servers. But once you do OpenAI, you have to give it the API key. Um, this is kind of like declaring constructing a class, an object of a class. So what we're doing here is making an OpenAI object with and passing in the API key. And we can see if it compiles. It does. So this kind of succeeded. Um, So then after that, we're gonna go ahead and declare the OpenAI client. So there's a couple parameters for this. First, we give this object the model that we're going to be using. So you guys probably know there's like ChatGPT 4.0, there's GBT 3.5 they used to have. But there's a ton of different models. So we want to kind of specify what we're using. Um, See in the messages, this is kind of going to tell the large language model, hey, you're a system. And then this is kind of giving it the instruction, you are a helpful assistant. So let's go ahead and write that real quick. Um, so we have response equals client dot chat dot completion dot create. This lets Python know that I want response to be whatever object that this constructor creates. And I want to pass in the model. I want to use GPT-4. I want to pass in these messages, like I said. That's going to be passed as a list, but we're going to use curly braces because in the background, what's happening is this stuff is being passed onto what's called a JSON file. And if any of you guys have ever done JavaScript, that's kind of like the basis of how data is kind of stored and messed around with um, inside JavaScript.
I've done it before, I think. Yeah, I have.
That's cool. So here we want to set the role to system. So we let ChatGPT or OpenAI know that I want to access the kind of system of it. And then I want the content. I want to tell the system that you are a helpful assistant. So we do that. That gets the first part of it done. But then we also need to specify the user's identity. So the role of the user, we can just be pretty bland and say user. And then the content can be, let's just follow the example from here. Tell me a joke, right? Tell me a joke. I think my camera is kind of, sorry about that, guys. Let me see if I can fix it real quick. Okay, I think I should be good. So then now we have this response object created. And then let me just uncomment this to see what we get. So let's start a new terminal. So I'm printing out the first choice. That's why we're indexing 0. And then the content of the message of that first choice. And then I'm CD bin. So when I do this, you're getting an error. Messages. Do I not close it? Oh, I see. So I have a period there. That was the issue. So we see we'll do that. There you go. This is ChatGPT speaking to us in Python. So we asked it, tell me a joke. It said, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. It's not really a great joke in my opinion, but ChatGPT did its job. It's very corny sometimes though. So we can kind of use this format to do kind of other cool stuff. Like let's say prompting, we want to make a custom prompt. So this is kind of gonna be like an introduction on how to do that. So let's just say before I ask ChatGPT anything, I want to ask whoever's using this program, what is your name? And the input function is used to store that inside of the username. And then we'll have like a brief intro. And then we'll just have give a slight or a brief introduction to yourself. And then the user will also be able to type that. And then you can see this prompt here. We're gonna format that to kind of use this introduction and the name to make more friends. That's just one example of it. So I want to kind of rewrite the introduction. You know, ChatGPT is all about kind of like taking an original input and kind of getting something based out of that. So I want to take in the user's name, and I think I'll add a section where it has the brief intro, and then I'll tell ChatGPT improve the introduction to make more friends. So let's get started on that. So I want to make a variable named prompt. I'm going to name it, or I'm going to just name it prompt, of course, but I want to use this F string. This means format string. And you can see I do that here. To kind of, this is the kind of the prompt that's going to be sent to ChatGPT. So this is username, and these brackets are used to indicate that I want the value of this variable here. So this is the user's name. This is their brief introduction. And we'll put that here. Brief intro. And then see the end here. Improve his or her introduction to make more friends. Improve his or her introduction to make more friends. And then we're going to send this prompt as the content of the response. So we're telling ChatGPT, hey, you're a system and your purpose is to help someone. You're a helpful assistant. I have this user and he's saying prompt. And if you go to prompt, it says you can see what it indicates, kind of showing that this is what I want to say to ChatGPT. So to kind of demonstrate that, I guess, does anyone want to volunteer to kind of use this program? I can give you remote control and then you'll be able to type into here directly. Anyone? Okay, sure. So Veer, I can give you, here, let me see how to do this. There you go. Are you able to control my screen? Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Okay, sounds good. Here, let me just start the program for you. So go ahead and type in your name, Veer, right? And then give a brief introduction, just kind of what you like, things you do. Okay, go ahead and press enter. That's going to send that request to ChatGPT. And here is an improved version of your introduction. It says, greetings, my name is Veer. I'm a passionate programmer with a deep interest in solving complex problems through coding. In my free time, you can often catch me in, what does it say at the end? I can't see because of this. Here, you can do this.
Engrossed in various sports.
I see. Engrossed in various sports, it energizes me and enhances my teamwork skills, which I also apply in my profession. I'm always eager to establish connections, exchange ideas, and share coding or sports stories. Let's get to know each other. So you can see that ChatGPT, we kind of did here what's called prompt engineering, where we got some random user's name and introduction, and we were able to send it to ChatGPT and create a better one. And here it is just printing out the choices. And you can see there's different choices. So let's say, I'm not sure if it did return a different choice, but if I'm not happy with that one, I can print multiple. Let me just do that. I'll just copy your introduction view. Let's running in the background. Okay, so it only gave you one choice. That's fine. But if it did give you multiple choices, like when you prompt ChatGPT something and it gives you like a response one and a response two, that's kind of what's happening. But sometimes you do just get one response. So that's the case here. But yeah, that's kind of an introduction to how to use Python with ChatGPT's or OpenAI's ChatGPT. Um, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I did see some in the chat here. I could go over those. I have a question. How much money did you pay for OpenAI? Yeah. So the way the pricing works here, I can actually just pull it up. So you kind of pay like based on how many millions of tokens you want. So you can see here it's $15 for 1 million tokens, 750 or I think this is a different like type of input. Um but you can kind of just go over this. I think I only paid like $10 for like um I think ChatGPT 4.0 or it kind of gives you access to all of them. But it depending on who you are, what your use cases are, it might be a little bit expensive. Um, but that's kind of an introduction to um, ChatGPT, and um, I'm sure once you get into the space of kind of using this in more advanced use cases, then like improving someone's introduction, you'll be able to use the API and kind of get a better idea for it. Someone said, "Were you born in Jersey?" No, I was actually born in Nepal. I go to school at Stevens, but yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts and kind of moved to Pennsylvania around there. Um, here.
I have a question.
So go ahead.
For the hackathon, are we allowed to use the for example, Gemini's API or the OpenAI API?
I'm not so sure about that. I think Ali is in here. Do you know if they're allowed to use that?
Yeah, you can use APIs for from Gemini and like even OpenAI if you want. But you just
Hmm.
have to be sure like you're able to explain it in the judging session.
Right.
But yeah, it's allowed. You can't just directly like write code from AI, but you can use APIs.
Hmm. Can you give PNG and MP3 files to ChatGPT? So they actually do allow something called files. I've used this before for I think a hackathon I was doing where we were like sending people's resumes and then kind of asking for input based on it. But you see here how it says completions. ChatGPT and OpenAI, they have a ton of like endpoints they're called. So I want to access the completions endpoint. It kind of just completes based on the input I give it. But I can also create a file completion where it's expecting a file and then some kind of output based on that. So because you can absolutely give different types of files to ChatGPT. But I'm not sure about if it can listen to those files. Because I know I've given ChatGPT like a recording of a meeting and I kind of asked for like a summary of it, but it wasn't really able to give me that. Um, but that's kind of how you do that. And William, to answer your question about pictures, I think I kind of just explained it. You can give PDFs, PNGs, MP3 files, um, all to ChatGPT using a different kind of endpoint. And the documentation is here as well. I'm not sure how much it will mean to you guys. But if you're able to comb through it, feel free to take a look at that to see how you can kind of use ChatGPT. You can see you can build apps with audio here, um, generate images as output. I think here we have a way, yeah, file inputs. So I think there's a version in Python somewhere around here. But feel free to kind of just take a look at this documentation. It kind of shows you a ton of examples, so you have an idea of how to use it. But that's those are very good questions. I think that's very worth looking into because a lot of the time we don't want to like send all this text to ChatGPT. But yeah. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. But if you guys are all good on that aspect, that's absolutely fine. And while you're going through the hackathon, feel free to email me. I'll also put this in the chat so you can just copy paste it. Feel free to email me any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. But that's kind of it for my presentation. And Ali, if you want to make any remarks, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Mr. Sorry, I don't really know how to say your last name, but thank you so much
It's
for
yeah, it's Chev again. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, Mr. Chepigan. Thank you so much for holding this workshop. I
Of
think
course, yeah.
it taught a lot for students like how to use ChatGPT in Python and
Mhm.
how to implement it. Um, so thank you for your time, and if no one else has any questions, you guys are all good to go.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great
It
day.
was, yeah, of course.